Hey guys, how's it going? Today we are at the end of our little series on making this guy. So we're going to finish it off with a review. We're going to look at what went well and what didn't, what I found harder and easier of making him, what we spent all of our money on, and like what all the items were, and then how long it took, and like breaking down the times a little bit. After that, I'm going to show you something I've been working on since, which I'm super excited to get into. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Let's get into it. Okay, we're going to start with the positives. Let's start with what we like. I'm going to be honest and say the first thing I like is the fact that we actually managed to finish. I've said in other videos, I haven't done anything like this before. This is my first time, and I was definitely intimidated by that and a little bit nervous about what was going to happen and whether I'd actually follow through with it. So I'm pleased that I did. I think the way I managed to achieve that was just breaking it down into parts. Like at the start, I only bought materials for the foam head base and kind of just said to myself, just get to this point, just do this one thing and don't worry about the other stuff. Because I was definitely getting stressed, like, I can't sew, I don't know how to do this, that doesn't make any sense to me, like if you went too far in the process. So I was just like, just chill out. Let's just make the head base. And then once we did that, I said, okay, let's just do the aligning and the eyes, and then the thing. So yeah, breaking down was how I fixed that. And then the second thing I really like is that he actually looks like a lion, which I'm kind of surprised by. I don't know what I was thinking when I started. I think I was thinking, what would I like to create? Which is probably a good place to start with, to be fair. But I think the downside was that there wasn't like patterns or tutorials that I could find for this specific guy. The simplest to follow tutorial that I found was from Sky High Studios, and that was for this guy. Insert image. And then I also followed another tutorial for a puma because that was obviously more cat-like, and that was this guy. But as you can see, they're very different to each other. So what I did was I followed the puma, and then I just like made edits based on, I just looked at like pictures of fursuits, the very few line fursuits I could find, and then I looked at pictures of actual lines and just kind of made it work from there. So I completely changed this part from the other one, and the ears are completely different, and the mane is completely different. So yeah, just kind of like went out on my own. So I'm pleased that for how far off script I went, I actually managed to achieve something that looks like the animal I intended. Knowing me, I could have gone off script and just ended up way in the weeds, and it would have looked like some sort of feline-esque creature, but I think it actually looks pretty liony to me, I think. Cool, so that's the second thing I'm pleased with. And then just like into details, I really like the eyes. I'm just gonna bring them closer to you. This is gonna mess up the autofocus, but can you see the eyes there? I mean, firstly, they actually do the follow me thing, which I didn't know if I was gonna be able to achieve. And secondly, yeah, I don't know, I just like the design. I like what I managed to achieve with the paints, considering I've not really painted. So yeah, that was good. And the second thing I'm pleased with is the mouth, the teeth and the tongue. I don't know, they were kind of like the end of the thing, and they didn't take very long. But and they're not perfect, but they just added a lot of character, so I'm really pleased with them. So that's the stuff I like the most. And then we have to get on to the stuff that I'm less pleased with. So that's gonna be a fun conversation. Let's go there. Okay, the first thing that I dislike is not going to surprise anybody, and that is the wonkiness. The two strongest examples of it are the difference between this line and this line. This side is obviously just way higher up, which is unfortunate. And the other difference is in the eyebrows. You can see this one's quite curved, and this one's quite flat. There are other aspects of him that are also wonky, but they're a lot less noticeable than those parts. So yeah, they're definitely the things I'm most disappointed with, and the things that I notice most when I'm feeling critical about it. But I know why I made the mistake and how I made the mistake, and it really was from the ground up. If you watch me work through it, you can see that I kind of started off on the wrong foot on the symmetry front, and it just kind of compounded, and I was constantly trying to correct it. Even I thought that this was in the pattern, like that I patterned it wrong, but when I looked at the pattern, yeah, I'll show it here. On the head base, this was not as strong as it was, so I think some of that was when I was gluing. I was pulling this side up more and this side out more, and that does come across in that, like, this one is to the line correct, and this side is beyond where it should be. This should be like a bit further back. So I think in addition to the other things, it's not the only problem, but like I should have been more careful when laying down the dude. The only thing I'll say in its defense, it's not really a defense, but like the only thing I'll say is like it kind of looks like he's like doing this, like because his eyebrows like kind of more flat than that one, and yeah, his cheeks kind of rising. I don't think you'd look at it and think, oh, he clearly intended that. But like this is what I got, so this is what I'm sticking with. That he's just constantly like a bit confused and a bit annoyed, like. The second thing I'm disappointed with is the work I did on shaving the fur. A lot of this was down to having the wrong product, and also my approach. I did watch some videos on it, but I think I should have been more careful than I was. Like, so when you're working on the foam, if you're putting too much pressure on, it's not plastic, so it's going to go in, and that's creating a dip, which then means that you're going to take off more fur than you intended to. I'm pleased with the steps that I took to fix it, and I have made some of the worst of it better. And like I said, on screen you can't actually tell that much. Like, I don't think you'd look at this and be like, oh, that fur's a mess. Well, maybe you would, but like, it's not super noticeable. It's not as noticeable as the other problem. But yeah, it's definitely something I want to work really hard on for the next one. And I think the third thing is the sewing lines. Again, not as noticeable as maybe the other two problems, or maybe slightly more noticeable than how fine I cut the fur. I'm actually really proud of my sewing, considering I've never done it before, and apart from a couple of little things, like overall I did a good job on the sewing, in my opinion, as a novice. But yeah, I should have brushed it out between the sewing and just done a few things differently. And I'm going to practice that before the next one, just to make sure that I don't get the sewing lines. So yeah, looking up close, we got that. But all in all, happy. I am happy. It's just, obviously I've got to talk about the negatives as well as the positives, and that was it. In terms of the easiest bits versus the hardest bits, I think because I'd not done any of it before, the things I found hard were the things on the learning curve, so that wouldn't necessarily impact somebody else. Like, if you know how to sew, you're not going to find sewing hard. Obviously, I found symmetry hard, we've discovered that, but I did actually not find, like, the carving hard. I enjoyed the carving a lot, and I enjoyed making the eyes. I didn't find that hard. The eye centres, not the eyes overall. I'd definitely say working with the fur was the hardest bit. We talked about this, just the shaving of the fur and stuff. It is definitely a skill, and if you haven't done it before, you can't just like rush into it. I think that would take some work to work with the fur. In terms of sewing, it wasn't as hard as I thought. None of it was as hard as I thought. It was just a learning curve. I think that sewing the lining was way harder than sewing the actual fur. The lining is stretchy and thin, and for the next one I've actually bought neoprene instead of scuba knit, which is like a much thicker material, so fingers crossed that's a little bit easier for me to work with. But I didn't find the fur very difficult to work with. Maybe it was because I'd already practiced, but I do think the thickness of the fur definitely helped with that. Okay, let's talk money. I don't know why, but I'm really excited to talk about this with you. Okay, so scrolling across the screen, hopefully here, is everything I bought throughout the project. Every tool, every material, everything. Before I get into the totals I spent, it's worth mentioning that because I have agoraphobia, I'm not so good at like traveling and going to stores and things. So a lot of this stuff, pretty much all this stuff, was bought online. And I think that if you were to do this, if you were to go to a local like craft store, you could probably get a lot of this stuff cheaper. For example, like I had to buy like 40 spare sewing needles because Amazon doesn't really sell like one sewing needle or 5. You have to buy it in big numbers, and that kind of happened throughout. So I got a lot of spare stuff for future, so a lot of the tools will be usable again and again, But yeah, I did end up spending a little bit more than I think a normal person would. The total I personally spent was £398.21. Yeah, that's right. And the breakdown of this was £157.14 on materials. So things like the fur, the foam, the plush, the lining, all that stuff. And £241.07 on tools. So scissors, I don't know why I can't start with scissors, but glue, the Ed head, like anything obviously that just made the product happen that isn't actually on the dude. For the materials, the fur I got from Carniv Creations, and a lot of the other stuff like for him, I really like their website and their customer service, so I definitely recommend them. So then for the lining material, I got it from Fabric Plaza, who seemed great. And for the fleece and the minky and all that stuff, I got it from Rooftop Fabrics, who also seem really great. Fabric Plaza do things with free shipping, but their quantity is quite high, whereas Rooftop Fabrics will give you smaller amounts, but you have to pay for shipping. So just kind of like try and think ahead of everything you need. Oh, and it's worth saying that from Carniv Creations, I had to spend quite a bit on like sample furs. I spent like 13 quid on sample furs, which I probably didn't really need, but I couldn't decide what colour to make him, so that's what we did. Stuff I didn't have to buy because I already had was a sewing machine, which is like 140 quid for the model I have. It's not the perfect model for this project, but it worked pretty well. I think that I lost some needles, and I think I had a few issues that maybe would have been better with a different sewing machine, which was made for tougher materials, but it definitely worked. I wouldn't recommend buying something different if you already have a sewing machine. And to be fair, I bought that as a present for my mom, so I guess in a way I did pay for it just a long time ago. And then the trimmers as well, like I've already said, they weren't great, and they were human hair trimmers, so I looked up, they are £50 in today's money for the equivalent thing, but I wouldn't recommend that. I'd recommend getting fur trimmers, which can start from £16 and go all the way up. I've just bought some actually. I bought these ones for my next project. They're £130, £135 plus another £30 for the right thing. You know, you know. So yeah, I spent quite a bit because I really want to get it right next time. And the only other thing I had was I borrowed some paints from my mum, so I didn't have to pay for paints, but they weren't that expensive, I don't think. So the amount that I saved through having stuff was another 197, which means the total cost for the things that I used was, let me find it, £595.21. Which, if you were just doing one fur head, you might as well get like a pre-made off Etsy for that price. Like, that's a lot of money. I think there are definitely like ways that you could do it cheaper than I did it. So that's the amount of money we ended up spending. Which I don't know, what do you think? I think that's quite a lot. But that will last me through, like, because I want to keep on doing this. Obviously, it's good to invest in good materials and good products. So that's what we did. Okay, before I move on the time spent, I just want to firstly point out what my favourite purchase was. These are my favourite product that I bought. It's such a weird favourite, but I'm going to explain why. These are threads for sewing. They're not cotton, they're whatever the one that's tougher than cotton is. And let me show them to you. Here is the threads. There's a lot of them. There's a lot per thread, and they're really beautiful colors, and obviously because there's so many colors, it's pretty much going to cover anything you ever want to do. So I don't need to get new thread for the new project. So yeah, I like them. But the reason these are my favorites is because it came with this, which is every color of thread I had. It's got a bobbin for it. Not a bobbin. Is it a bobbin? I'm going with bobbin, but it's the thing for the bottom of the sewing machine. And these were so useful because I was swapping and changing threads quite a lot. I had 4 colors of thread, and yeah, not having to just having these pre-ready that I could just slip in the bottom of the sewing machine every single time was really cool and a lifesaver, and I really like that. So that's why this is my style product. And I also really want to show you. I think you'll find this funny. I found this funny. So I told you about these trimmers, human hair trimmers that I ended up using. 50 quid nowadays. These again I borrowed from my mom. Okay, look at this. Okay, so these were purchased in 1992, making them 33 years old, and like, okay, firstly they still work, but like, look at this picture on the side. This poor child. This was me, to be fair. This was literally how I got haircuts as a kid, with the little bowl, bless. This wasn't actually me. I just mean this was what was happening to me. But yeah, look at this poor little child. And then also what I thought was really funny is, check this out. Like, this is a VHS on how to use these. Surprisingly enough, I don't have a VHS player, so maybe that's why I made such a mess of using them. Okay, so we talked about money spent, and let's talk about time spent. So obviously, starting from scratch, I imagine this was going to take longer than it would doing it a second time. We're going to find out, because I'm doing this a second time. I talked about this in the first video, but it took about 17 or 18 hours to do the foam layer for this. I did add a little bit more foam later on, but that was like the bulk of it. The eyes took me a total of 10.5 hours. The lining, including like learning how to do the lining and all the mistakes, took 18 hours and 25 minutes. The big surprises, which I talked about in the last video, were prepping the head base for the fur took 19.5 hours, and then the sewing took another 19.5 hours, although that was a little bit more expected. Yeah, and then you can see the shave that I did on the head was another 5.5 hours, and then trying to fix that was another 2.5 hours, so it all adds up. The total across the whole thing was 115 hours. I don't know what I think of that. It's a lot of time for one thing, but I think I know when I've done more whether that is an expected amount. If you've done it, you can tell me whether that's an expected amount or a crazy amount or a low amount. I have no idea. But anyway, that's how long we spent. So yeah, that's how long my life this took. Okay, so for the final part of this video, I'm really excited to show you what I've been working on next, and that is a little brother for Samson called Saxon. So I wanted to go the complete opposite with this. He is a warm red cat, so I'm going with like a cold blue dog. I think I saw somebody on TikTok be like, oh, blue dog, like revolutionary, because I guess a lot of people have blue dogs, but yeah, that's the way I've gone. So I wanted to go for like a Nordic theme for this. Cold colors, and I'd like to try and get some runes, like Nordic runes, sewn into him. If I don't succeed at that, we'll just delete that bit. And then yeah, I've finished his head base, which I'm going to show you now. For that, I worked really hard on symmetry, and I'm proud of what I did. Again, I kind of went off script a little bit. I did actually buy a pattern this time and follow the pattern, but I edited it because the pattern was quite cute dog, and I wanted something a little bit more. The word vulpine is coming to mind, but I don't exactly know what vulpine means, so I don't know why I'm saying that. But yeah, I'll show you what I made. So this is the start of Saxon. Ta-da! Yeah, so I'm pleased. Oh, I'm gonna go on this side because I think the mic will struggle. I'm pleased. He's looking quite kind of evil at the moment. I want him to be like he's a little brother, so I want him to be a little bit like mischievous and a little bit like naughty. And that's why I've kind of gone for something quite sharp but not like overbearing, not like wolf. I wanted him to kind of be wolfy, but not like, you know, he's meant to be smaller and stuff, so maybe we're more in fox territory. We'll see when he's finished. Either way, it's canine. Yeah, the symmetry on this is, in my opinion, and from what I can tell, a lot better than where we were at I've worked really, really hard. To be fair, it took as long to make as Samsung did, and this was my second time doing it, but it's because I was very precise about my placements and my cutting. As you can see from all the lines I made, and yeah, he should look pretty equal. So let's start Saxon, and then I'll show you what colours I got for him. So for the lining, I've gone for this dark green. I could have just gone for black, but I thought it was kind of cool. And this is in neoprene, so it's thicker. This is more like wetsuit material than swimsuit material. And yeah, we'll see if that's easier to work with, but I like it. And then, like I said, we're going for cool colours for him. So one of the dominant colours, the biggest one, is this beautiful teal. I'm really obsessed with this. I just think it's really, really pretty colour. I just love it. So yeah. Another colour that we're going to be working with, which is probably joint second, will be this. I don't know if it just looks grey on the camera, but this is a blue grey. And yeah, it just kind of depends. It's kind of cool. It depends what light it's in. Sometimes it looks quite grey, but you can definitely tell that in reality you can see like the bluiness in it. So yeah, that's going to be like an accent colour. And then the other accent colour, going completely the other direction, is this beautiful baby blue. So this is like icy cold, and I'm going to mix this with like white that I already had from him, so the short white, and then we'll get into longer baby blue. So I'm really excited to show you how he works out. You'll see that through YouTube Shorts as I'm working on it, and I'm going to make a video once I've finished him as well, probably comparing the experience of the two, one to like your first and your second, just because I think they're such different experiences. I'm much more confident going into this one and excited and less nervous. I'm hoping for less mistakes. We'll see when we get to the end of it. But yeah, I'm going to do a little comparison between the finished products and the experiences of them. And yeah, and then we'll make some hands for both of them, and we'll talk about that as well. So really looking forward to seeing you as we carry on. Thank you so much for watching these. I've really enjoyed making them. I've enjoyed chatting to you guys in the comments. I'm really enjoying myself, so thank you so much. I love you guys being here, and I love being here too. So cool. Thank you very much. Have a lovely whatever day you're watching this. Okay, bye.